This video will show you how to use Visual Studio 2008 to work with XML files and specifically DTD files. Start out by opening up a new project. We'll go to File, New Project, and the selection you want to use is you can go into the Visual Basic, go into the Windows, and then look for the empty project. And I would recommend using the prefix PRJ for project, and let's just call this XML. Now we want to add a new item. We're going to add an XML file. So we'll go into Project, Add New Item, and this time we'll scroll down and we'll look for the XML file. Just click once and we're going to call this product.xml. And you can see it automatically puts in our signature line for the product. And here you can see we're doing a very simple XML file, and the root element is going to be product. It's going to have an attribute of product ID, and then it's going to have a sub element of product name with a little bit of text data in there. So we'll save that, and you can see down here that everything looks fine. Now this error down the bottom, submain was not found, that's because Visual Studio is looking for a program to run and all we're doing is data. Remember that XML doesn't do anything, it just sits there. Visual Studio is ready to go to work and it's saying I can't find a main method, so we can just ignore that for the work we're doing. Now we want to be able to validate this code. But if I come in here, notice what happens if I say products. Right away I get an underscore, a red squiggly line, and it says, oh, I'm expecting the end tag product. So you can see that right away this automatically Visual Studio is seeing if this is well formed or not. If I put another tag here, and Visual Studio adds the closing tags, but that also will give me an error because it's not well formed, because it's not properly nested. Let's see what that error message is. See, it's saying I'm expecting an end tag. So I'm going to take those out and we'll get back to a well formed. But we want to make sure we have a valid document. So we're going to use a DTD to do that. To build a DTD, we're going to go to Project, Add New Item. And because there's not an option for a DTD, we can go in and just choose text file. And I prefer to name my DTDs the same that I do my XML files, so I'm going to call this product DTD. And I'm going to add it. Now, we could have used the text file for our XML as well, because XML is straight text, but then we would have had to type in this XML version and the encoding. So the XML option makes it just a little quicker because it types in that first line for us. So here's our DTD. I'm going to go out and get a quick copy of my DTD text. Again, you can pause the video so you can type this in. Notice that we use regular XHTML comments. This is really an XML comment, but you've been using an XHTML probably in your other classes. I give the file name, I describe what that file is for, and just a little background data. Now here's how a DTD works. This is saying we're going to have a root element of product. It's going to have a sub element of product name, and then the sub element product name is going to contain PC data, which is basically just text data. It's also going to have an attribute. When I say it, I mean the product element is going to have an attribute. The name of that attribute is going to be product ID, and it's going to contain C data, or basically text. and we're going to say that it's required. So let's save that file. Again, pause the video and type this text in so you can play around and work with these two documents. Now we need to connect these two documents. We need the product.xml to refer back to the DTD. And to do that, we're going to add a doc type, which you probably recognize from doing XHTML. And we're going to put it right after our XML declaration. So here we have a doc type. The very first thing we're going to connect to is our root. So this product is going to connect to our root element. And then the system says, what file are we going to use? Well, we're going to use the product DTD. Now there's a lot of products around here, but you can tell by the extension which one is which. So I'll save this, and we can see that there's no problems at all. Now, what if I want to put in, say, a product description? Yellow and green. Because we're connected with the DTD, right away we get an error here, and it says the element product has an invalid child element. So it says that you can't do that here. And we also have it down here in our warning area. So that's product description. For now, I'm going to, well, I'll leave that line in there. I'm going to go into DTD, and I'm going to add my product description. Whoops, wrong one. So we're going to put in prod descript. And then I'm going to come down here and add the sub element and tell a validator or Visual Studio that it's just going to be text. And you can see as I was typing I had errors popping up, but as I finished typing all my pieces in, it worked. So we'll save that DTD. We'll go into our product. Now I haven't found a way to clear that out, but watch what happens if I start typing in, oh, maybe that's the difference. But as I start typing in prod, my text display pops up. I can hit tab, and then I can type in what I need. Now let's say I want to have two prod descriptions. I start typing prod, and you can see that my quick links doesn't show anything. If we go back to the DTD, you'll see that there can only be one prod description. So if we put a plus here, make sure you do a save. Now when I start typing, my code complete shows me that I have another prod descript. And because a plus says that I can have many, I can just keep on adding them in. I can also go in my DTD. I can add another attribute. And let's add an attribute to our prod descript. And we're going to call it, let's call it color code. And it's going to be text. Well, let's make it required. And now I can go in here and I can say color code equals 1, 2, 3. And then let's try that again. Oh, you can see that I typed prod descript on here. And you can see on these prod descripts, if I type the space, my color code comes up so I can type. Again, I'll do a space, I'll do a tab to get that color code, and then I'll just type in a number. And now you can see I have a completely valid document. I'll do a quick save. And my DTD or rule book has basically dictated what I can put in my XML document.